Hello there, this is Russ Bucher from ControlMyNikon, and in this video we're going to take a look at how you can capture images in ControlMyNikon. Now there's many ways to trigger the shutter in ControlMyNikon, and we're just going to step through as many as we can here. But the most obvious one is to, at first we'll connect to the camera here. This is a D800. The most obvious way is to click on the shoot button, and that's this little icon button up there. You click on it and it captures the image, and as soon as it's captured, it's displayed here. So let's take a look at some other ways. There's also AF shoot, and since we're not currently in live view, if you attempt to focus, such as clicking on AF, it is going to cause a phase autofocus attempt. So then when you attempt to shoot again, it's going to basically capture whatever you had focused on before. And you can see the focus is a little bit different than last time. And it's attempting to focus using your phase autofocus mode that you currently have set on the body. So that could be, AF-C or AF-S. So ideally, the body should be set that it does not require focus before the trigger is fired. So when I just took that last shot, it tried to focus on whatever one of those little red squares that you see in the viewfinder is positioned at. But when you use ControlMyNikon, we generally don't use phase focus. We usually work in live view mode. Now you can also AF and shoot, which is the same as AF and then shoot, so it does it all in one shot. Did the autofocus, and then trigger the shutter. If you wanted to, you could just reach over to the body and press the trigger button, and it will capture an image as well. I'll do that now. However, when you are in live view, the trigger button on the body does not work. And Nikon remotes do not work. So while in live view, one of the ways that you can remotely trigger the shutter is to use our triggers, or you could even use a PowerPoint remote. And a PowerPoint remote is really just a little mini keyboard, and you can get them in inexpensive wireless versions. And you press a button and you map that to a keyboard shortcut here in ControlMyNikon, and it triggers it. Okay, I'm going to switch over to live view. So we still have this one, but now you notice that AF and AF shoot are disabled. That's because these are for phase focus, which is disabled in the body when you're in live view. So I'll just click on this one. It does not attempt to focus. It just captures whatever is there. We also, in the live view window, have a duplicate shoot button. It does exactly the same thing as this one, captures the image. The reason we have it here is sometimes you might want to operate full screen with live view, and you can't see the other shoot button. So in addition to using these buttons, you can use a keyboard shortcut. So here for shoot, I have configured the PowerPoint remote. But now I'm just going to use the keyboard, so I'll just press F5 here. So whenever I press the F5 key, it will shoot. Now there's some more complex ways to trigger the shutter release. So if I go to the trigger menu, we can use a web trigger. Now a web trigger allows a web page to trigger the shutter or control other actions within ControlMyNikon. So let's give it a try. I'm just going to enable it. And you can see how it brought up a web page when I clicked on the test button. But really, you're just navigating to a website address that you have listed here. So you can control which actions are available. Right now you can just connect and disconnect. I'll make it shoot instead. Okay, now you just click on this. Since this is just a standard web page, you can access this from your tablet or your smartphone or from just a standard computer web browser like I'm using here. There's a bunch of different things you can do here. You can tell it to shoot, you can flip between the browser and live view. Any of these actions can be added onto that web page. Okay, I'm just going to disable this. Let's take a look at another trigger. So here we have a sound trigger, and you select the microphone, and then you enable it, and you can see here that it is varying with the intensity of my voice. So I'm going to just set up a trigger, and here's the actions. It's the same actions as you saw for the web trigger, and I'll tell it to shoot. I'll tell it to reset in 10 seconds. And I'll enable it. And now here you set the intensity, and here you can see that it's been triggering as it's been reaching the trigger point. So I'm just going to be quiet for a moment, then I'll just clap my hands and we'll trigger it. So you can see that that was enough to trigger it. Now I'll enable it. And to capture the image. And we have other tutorial videos on how to use these triggers. And we also have TCP/IP. So this is another way to trigger it, and all we do here is we enable it, and now you can connect to ControlMyNikon using Telnet or your own custom-made application, and you could send commands from one application to ControlMyNikon. So this is useful when you integrate ControlMyNikon with other programs. We have a speech trigger, and let's give it a try. So this uses Windows speech recognition, and you really need to train this recognition in the Windows control panel, and I think I've trained it, so I'll give it a try. Shoot. You have to speak very clearly. As you can see here, when I was talking, it attempted to decode my conversation. Didn't exactly get it right. Now the key here on speech recognition is you could use a wireless headset and then configure these different shoot words and phrases to the different actions, and then you don't have to reach for a keyboard or anything to shoot. So you could hold lights in both hands if you wanted to, and command it to shoot. So it's like you are your own lighting assistant. So let's go back into triggers. We have a motion trigger that allows you to draw a target around your scene, and then when something moves in this scene, it will detect that, and if there's movement within this particular area that you've drawn, you can tell it to do a particular action. And in this case, you would probably want to tell it to shoot. Now in this scene here, which is sitting in a light box, there's not any motion at all. We have a separate video on how to do this, but this is just an interesting way to trigger it. And we have a lot of users that use this for capturing birds at bird feeders and in bird baths, and they will set this up on their maybe a kitchen table with a telephoto lens pointed out the window, have live view running, and then define the target around the bird feeder, and then they'll just leave it and maybe go have dinner and come back, and they'll find that their camera and ControlMyNikon have captured some very nice images of birds arriving at the bird feeder or the bird bath. Let's see what other triggers we have. Now we also have fidgets. Now a fidget is looks like a circuit board like this almost. It is a circuit board that interfaces with your computer, and onto that fidget you can attach sensors such as a vibration or temperature or light sensor, and then you can essentially have ControlMyNikon trigger the body due to the detection of vibration. Now if you don't have fidgets and you haven't installed them on your computer, when you click on fidgets you'll just get a message saying that you don't have fidgets. And I'll disable those triggers. Now some other ways to trigger the shutter are over here in HDR, and this is where you can set up a sequence of captures. And I'll just capture it here. I'm not too sure if these are good shutter speeds. It's probably going to be very dark. or it's going to be too light. That's right. Okay, so here you can see we have 3 different intensities, and so you can just vary the shutter speeds here, and then you can use these images for HDR processing. Okay, what else do we have? We have burst. So here we can capture images in continuous mode. So I'm just going to enable this, and then I'll reach over to the camera and set it up continuous. But first of all, I'll return the exposure back to where it was. Okay, it's set for continuous low speed mode on the D800, and I'll bring it up to 6 images, and let's capture. Of course, it would help if we were looking at something that was moving here, but you'll get the idea, and you can see how they're displayed here, all 6 of them. Or you can go back to the image browser, and there's your burst capture. Okay, let's go to batch. Now, batch shooting allows you to import data into ControlMyNikon and then embed that data into the file name or the folder name or the metadata. Now I'm just going to bring up some data I already know is in the system. So its unique identifier is 1, and it brings up this data here. And if you were to shoot, it captures the information. And if I go down to shoot on activation, now when I type in another code and activate, it will shoot it automatically. So some people use this with barcode scanners. So they'll click on it, and it captures and embeds this information in the metadata. Time-lapse. So here we can set up a time-lapse where you can start it at a particular time and end it at a particular time, or just start it immediately and then end it after a certain amount of images or when you click on cancel. So let's capture 3 images, the image interval of 5 seconds. And we'll capture. So now we have 3 images, and of course if there's motion you'd see something moving, and then you could take your images and export them and make a time-lapse video. Back to workflows. Down to stop motion. So this allows you to create the images for a stop motion video, and we have a separate tutorial on this because this is a bit more involved. Let's go to long exposure. And this allows you to capture a bulb image in ControlMyNikon. Now, some older bodies did not permit tethered bulb control. However, newer bodies like a D800 do. So using long exposure, it just guides you through capturing an initial reference image, and based on that information and the f-stop of your filters, then calculating how much your final long exposure time should be, and then you can capture it, and it even gives you the option of capturing a dark frame as well, which is really just an image of the sensor noise. Then you can use that information to deduct the noise from your image in post-processing. Okay, back to workflows. Now we also have focus stacking here. Focus stacking allows you to bring an image completely into focus by successively stacking images into a composite image. Because when you look at an image like this, and I'm at currently f8, which is the sharpest for this particular body lens combination, if I go to live view and look at the image, you can see this part's not in focus. I'll just double click on it to focus. Now this part's not in focus. Well, what you can do is in focus stacking is you can set it to step through different focus ranges like this and then capture each one, and then you can export it to external apps such as the excellent Zerine Stacker, or use another application to combine this into your final stacked image. This is very popular for macro photography, so when you're shooting pictures of very tiny bugs or coins or flowers and things like that. And if your body supports tethered movie capture, you can also click on this button here to capture video. So as you can see, there's a lot of ways to trigger the shutter in ControlMyNikon. Happy tethering!